Chapter 1. Activate the king. Many authors use this feature of the endgame as the defining difference between endgame and middle game. And indeed, in the middle game, the king often feels safe and secure behind a solid shield of pawns. But in the endgame, matters are often different. The king wants to be activated to take part in the battle. So what to do in Onishok Zamhuri Olympia 2012 with white to move? H3, followed by activating the king to F4 and white wins. This is of course also one of the differences, that it is often easier to make such definitive assessments of the position. Yeah, white's king is quicker, black's pawn structure is broken, and this is enough here to win. And black has no defense. After king f6, g4 undermines black's structure, and the e4 pawn is lost sooner or later, either in the bishop endgame or in the pawn endgame. Yeah. And white's active king makes all the difference, which is very typical for endgames. Variation by Baburin from Chess Today. Okay, so Zamhuri played h5, and yeah, this is one of the reasons why I chose the example. Onishok further activated his king. It came from g1 and is now heading directly to the heart of black's position. Here bishop c4 would also win directly, but okay, there's nothing wrong with advancing the king. And black's king is really not going anywhere. Onishok applies the principle do not rush, as black has no real counterplay, and black's king is going nowhere. And now bishop c5 either simplifies to a completely one pawn endgame or wins many, the f7 first and many other pawns later. Simplification of two pawn endings must be calculated very carefully, of course. Another guideline, I'll come back later, but let's stay with the active king for the moment. What to do in Timofeyev Peshikian, but I have to admit that black has also other very tempting options. I like the game move king d7, of course, but Markus Hochkrepp and Martin Vogt suggested at one training session rook d4, and this I now like even more. Activating the rook, playing with the active bishops, and this is very good for black, and I probably now even prefer that way to keep more attacking potential on the board and then maybe activate the king later. While in the game, black played king d7, which is also strong, and black's king is activated and white's isn't, and black won later. But of course, rook d4 a bit spoils the example slightly. Okay, Kotronias Jakovenko, Bursa 2010. What to do with white to move? Activate the rook here. Rook a3, followed by activating the rook, and then white might be even slightly better according to Kotronias. While b4 was a mistake and violated the guideline that you should not play on the wing where the opponent is stronger or which the opponent wants to open. Now Kotronias opens the queen side for black. A typical mistake. And Jakovenko played king e6 and b5. And now black's active king is a major factor in evaluating the position. There are only two results. Black wins or it's a draw. What to do with white? White should also bring his king to the game, which is now taking part on the queen side. And then I cannot say how to evaluate it. Both options are still open, but of course, in practical play, Jakovenko would have had good winning chances. It is very difficult to defend such a position. Well, after rook f3, black was definitely winning. Black's active king is much more important than white's extra pawns. and king e4, king c4, going to this typical dominating formation, and yeah, and if you compare the activity of the kings and look at the dangerous passed b pawn, then it's clear that black should be winning, and indeed that is the case, and Yakovenko then converted it after some further moves. Aronia and Kramnik, Alekhine Memorial 2013 shows another typical scenario. White to move. The a6 is not important. It's all about king activity. And white is winning. Because white has the most dangerous pass pawn on the board, and Aronia's king can't support it. Here, unfortunately, both moves win. King takes e5 is also winning, but there's nothing wrong with Aronian's approach. And this is a typical scenario for rook endings where the drawish tendency is not so seen, because black's pieces are not active. And creating counterplay just lasts too long. Okay, no counterplay on the queen side. And yeah, this plays against the counterplay on the king side and helps the d pawn. Yeah, the checking distance, of course, is not large enough here. It should be 3 squares as a guideline. We will see later. Okay, Kramnik has managed to activate his rook, but what counts is the activity of white's king. The king likes to help such a passed pawn. It's one of the features of an active king. Yeah, this black is lost in any case, but okay, let's see the force fast which arises. Yeah, okay, and the main guideline for the force fast is that the side which gives the first check wins, but obviously here it's wrong, as this is no real attack. Aronian just gives the counter check, and now his attack is for real. Game over. So Kramnik resigned as he's mated. Another example is for rook ending is Karyakin and Volokitin, Olympia 2012. And what to do with black to move. White's king must be kept at bay. King d6 and king e6. And then the position is a draw due to the large drawish tendency of rook endings, as white's king cannot invade directly. Well, in the game, Volokitin took, but now white wins with rook e4 due to his active king versus the passive black king, and Karyakin converted convincingly. Another important difference between a middle game and an endgame is that the attacking king often helps its forces hunting the enemy. Here, Carlsen Shirov, Forest 2008. With bishop b8, it would still be a draw according to Kryzenkov, but Shirov played bishop g7, and after king g3 it was over. White's king closes the mating net, and there's no escape. And Shirov resigned, not waiting for the mate to be shown on the board. And the guideline that opposite colored bishops favor the attacker from the middle game is also valid in the endgame if there are more forces on the board, like rooks here. And the attacking king then often helps in weaving the mating net. Here it closes the roads to the south. And finally, one warning example not to follow this guideline too automatically. Short, Belyavsky, Linares, 1992. White's king is more active, and this is also one of the major reasons why white is winning. But Nigel Short's choice was a bit unfortunate. So even with reduced firepower in the endgame, be careful, don't run into mating attacks or perpetual check patterns or whatever by activating the king automatically. But calculate concrete variations as well, of course. Do not use any guideline just automatically but only to help find candidate moves, to orientate yourself, and then to bake up your conclusions with concrete calculation. Chess is a concrete game, after all. So, white is indeed winning due to his active king. This is an example for the guideline, and knight takes f6 wins.